Hey ladies and gentlemen, Wolfcryer here with yet another Necromancer build guide. So this one is for the Bonestorm Necromancer, the current leaderboard top build for the Necromancer. Now there are a few variations for this build, and I will do my best to try to go over some of those, and maybe you have some suggestions as well, or something you'd like to try in addition to this guide. Now remember, this is a guide, so fiddle around with it, see what you can come up with as well. Alright, so before we start into the gear, once again we're going to go over some basic stats that you are looking for. Obviously, once again, you're looking for intelligence and vitality on your gear, as well as critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and area damage. Those are your main stats that you're looking for as far as your damage output goes. Cooldown is not that bad. Resource cost reduction is not needed whatsoever with this build. Alright, so now let's go ahead and dive right into the gear, ladies and gentlemen. First thing you're looking at is the full Grace of Inarius set. You will wear all 6 pieces. The set bonuses include bone armor damage is increased by 1000%. And for the 4-piece, bone armor grants an additional 2% damage reduction per enemy hit. And for that 6-piece set bonus, bone armor also activates a swirling tornado of bone, damaging nearby enemies for 750% weapon damage, and increasing the damage they take from the Necromancer by 2,750%. Now another set that I use is the Endless Walk set, the Compass Rose and Traveler's Pledge. The 2-piece set bonus, while moving, damage taken is reduced by up to 50%, and while standing still, all damage is increased by up to 100%. For your other ring, you are going to be wearing a Unity. All damage taken is split between wearers of this item. You will wear one of these, and you will make sure that your follower has one on, as well as the relic that allows him not to die. Then for your belt, you're looking at Dainty's Binding. You gain an additional up to 50% damage reduction when there is an enemy afflicted by your Decrepify. Very useful with almost all Necromancer builds, as this gives you a pretty substantial damage reducer. Then we have Ancient Parthen Defenders. Each stunned enemy within 25 yards reduces your damage taken by up to 12%. And since you will be using the bone armor that stuns enemies, this is going to come in very, very handy. I do hope at some point that they will add some Necromancer type bracers into the game and give us more variations than just using Ancient Parthen Defenders for almost every single Necromancer build that there currently is. But we're going to have to wait and see. Next up for your weapon, Raylina's Shadow Hook. And the main part of this that you will be utilizing is every point of maximum essence increases your damage by 0.5%. Now let's go ahead and dive right into that cube. For your weapon slot, you're going to be using Trag'Oul's Corroded Fang. The Cursed Scythe rune for Grim Scythe now has a 100% chance to apply a curse, and you deal 200% increased damage to cursed enemies. And over on your armor slot, we have Aquila Cuirass. While above 90% primary resource, all damage taken is reduced by 50%, and you will pretty much be capped as far as primary resource, so you will almost always have this damage reduction. Now, a good option here is Corpse Whisper Pauldrons. Corpse Lance damage is increased by up to 30% for 3 seconds when you consume a corpse. So the Corpse Whisper Pauldrons are very, very useful at increasing your damage. If you want more damage instead of the survivability that Aquila Cuirass offers, definitely choose Corpse Whisper Pauldrons. Now over onto your jewelry slot, we have Crispin Sentence. You deal 100% increased damage against slowed enemies, or Triple this bonus against enemies afflicted by any other type of control impairing effect. And you do have that stun from your bone armor, and this is going to proc that quite a bit. Alright, so now that we've looked at the gear and the cube, let's move on to the legendary gems. First up, we have Pain Enhancer. Critical hits cause the enemy to bleed for a certain percentage of your weapon damage as physical over 3 seconds, and you gain Blood Frenzy, granting you 3% increased attack speed for each bleeding enemy within 20 yards. Next up, we have Bane of the Trapped. Increased damage against enemies under the effects of control impairing effects, and you gain an aura that reduces the movement speed of enemies. And that aura is a control impairing effect, triggering this non-stop. Then we have Myrne, Teardrop of the Starweaver. 15% chance on hit to smite a nearby enemy for a certain percentage of weapon damage as holy, and heal yourself for 3% of your maximum life. And the bonus for reaching level 25, smite a nearby enemy every 3 seconds. This is going to come in very handy for not only keeping you alive, but it also adds a little bit of damage. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to the skills. First up, we have Grim Scythe, Cursed Scythe. And this is going to trigger that Tragouls in your cube. So you will be adding a curse to every enemy hit by this generator. Then we have Decrepify. I personally use Dizzying Curse because this adds another stun. Cursed enemies have a 10% chance to be stunned for 2 seconds when hit. Up next is Bone Armor Dislocation. This is going to be a big portion of your damage when dealing with white mobs or trash mobs. And it's a very good damage mitigator as well. Plus, with the Dislocation rune, enemies hit are also stunned for 2 seconds. Next up is Blood Rush Potency. This allows you to pretty much teleport, and the Potency rune grants you 100% increased armor for 2 seconds after casting it. Then we have Corpse Lance, Brittle Touch. Target an enemy to summon projectiles from nearby corpses that causes 1750% weapon damage as cold to the target. Now this is going to be increased by your Grace of Inarius set. And the Brittle Touch rune, enemies become brittle, increasing their chance to be crit by 5% for 5 seconds each time they are hit with Corpse Lance. Corpse Lance is going to be your elite killer and your Rift Guardian killer. This is where a massive amount of your damage is going to come from. And last on your active skills is Land of the Dead, Frozen Lands. All corpse skills can be used at will for 10 seconds, and enemies in the Land of the Dead are periodically frozen. All these freezes and stuns are going to proc your Crispin's Ring in your cube, and you are going to deal tons of damage. And this skill is going to allow you to also cast your Corpse Lance at will. So definitely save this because it's got a very long cooldown. Save this for those big elites and the Rift Guardian. Alright, on to your passives. First up, we have Swift Harvesting. Increase the attack speed of Bone Spikes, Siphon Blood, and Grim Scythe by 15%. This is very good on making sure those mobs have curses on them and generating your essence. Up next, Spreading Malediction. Receive a 1% damage bonus for each enemy afflicted by one of your curses. And since you will be using Decrepify a lot, as well as Grim Scythe, the goal is to have everything on your screen cursed, and this is going to increase your damage quite substantially. Then I use Standalone. Increase armor by 100%, reduced by 10% for each active minion. And since I do not use any minions whatsoever, this is a full 100% increase on your armor. And last but not least is Overwhelming Essence. Increase your maximum essence by 40. Definitely useful when combined with that Shadow Hook weapon that you are currently using. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so there you have my build guide for the Bonestorm Necromancer. Let me know in the comments section what you think of this build guide. Let me know if you have any thoughts on a couple of changes here and there. Feel free to enter those comments below, and make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and you guys have a great day. Peace.